Today we will be discussing and analyzing the beloved childhood friends to lovers trope found in romantic fiction. Let's talk about what makes the childhood friends to lovers trope such a swoon-worthy romance, as well as how to write one, and some common mistakes that new writers may make while writing one of these kinds of stories. If you don't know me, my name is Deidre, and I am a romance author who majored in video game design. And my channel, Otome Author, is a space designated to study romance and fiction writing with the help of some of my favorite video games. To help me with this analysis of the childhood friends to lovers trope, I will be using clips from Love and Deep Space, as well as Our Beginnings, and My Vow to My Liege. If you are not familiar with these games, that is completely fine. I will just be using them as a reference as we talk about childhood friends to lovers tropes. So all writers, gamers, and romance lovers should enjoy this video. And if you're not in one of those categories, you can watch too. Make sure to like and subscribe if you love playing video games, enjoy romantic stories, or have an interest in analyzing different types of storytelling. So first, let's look at a definition of childhood friends to lovers. Childhood friends to lovers is a trope where the characters know each other as children and then come together romantically as adults. This is different from the friends to lovers trope in one key aspect. In childhood friends to lovers, the characters have met together as children who are still discovering the world around them. And in part, they do this discovering together. And so this also means that they know each other during the purest parts of their personalities that have not been tainted by any sort of traumatic event or life-changing heartbreak. Or at the very least, before a tragic event has really settled into that character's psyche and created different types of calluses on their personality. Opposingly, friends to lovers is a trope where the two main characters come together as adults. So they've already discovered the world, and now they're supporting each other through that world that they've already discovered on their own. Childhood friends to lovers can take three different routes. In the first route, the children grow up together to adults unsevered. This kind of brings the dynamic of this is my honorable family member or my best friend to this relationship. The two main characters are extremely close, usually both emotionally and physically, usually engaging in things such as roughhousing or even long embraces. This is because there's no awkwardness between the two characters. The game Our Beginnings is a really great example of this by showing that Cove and the main character have no secrets or surprises between them, and their families are even connected quite well and treat each other like extended family. The second route is the casually separated friends. While the characters are friends as children, it's possible that they start to grow apart as they get older into adolescence and adulthood. Maybe someone has to move away for university, or they start to join different friend groups and they slowly drift apart. But when they reunite as adults, it's a little awkward because so much time has passed, and so they're not sure what to say to each other. Love and Deep Space is an example of this. The main character and Zayne are playmates as children, but then they are separated, coming back together as adults when Zayne turns out to be the primary care physician of the main character's family. This creates a slightly awkward reunion as so much time has passed that they don't know what to say to each other. And third route is the tragically separated childhood friends. This will be more brutal external separation factors such as death or war, where the reunion in the future causes an extremely emotionally charged scene. In Vow to My Liege, the main character is reunited with her childhood friend Yi Guang after believing that he had died because of her. As it turned out, he actually faked his death. This creates a layered emotional response when she meets with him again in the future as adults. The traumatically separated route is also really good for conflict tension throughout the duration of the rest of the story. Now, all three of these routes not only create a layer of tension between the main characters themselves, but it also creates a layer of tension between all the characters around them. Anyone interested in one of the main characters is going to have a hard time getting past the best friend that has been around since childhood, or just feel threatened by the fact that another character has an intimate bond that the side character doesn't have. This may cause a lot of insecurity along the side characters and create a lot of jealousy and fighting and other emotions that will contribute to the plot of your story. Now, a problem that may arise for writers while writing this type of story is the temptation to make these childhood memories between the main characters the foundation of their romance. But but rose-colored glasses on the days of innocence is not a good romantic foundation. It's a romanticized look at the past, but it's not a romance between two people. But the nostalgia of the past is something that gives them an intimate bond on top of the romance that is blooming between them in the story. Nostalgia is like an icing on the cake, but it's not the cake. The cake will be who the characters are now, fully grown, and how they connect together in terms of responsibility and passion and play. Most great romances are built on the foundation of friendship, and Childhood Friends to Lovers has this as its greatest strength, since the characters have been friends during different parts of their development. They remember each other for who they once were, and then fall in love with the present version of that person. So Childhood Friends to Lovers means that the main characters have seen a character arc in the person that they're interested in, and they get to note similarities between the past and the present that gives them a lot of joy and happiness, but they also can see new developments that they also find attractive. So the Childhood Friends to Lovers story needs moments where they can separate the child they once knew and the person that's in front of them now. These new lights will attract them deeper and deeper and spark the adult romance between them. So eventually they no longer see just the childhood playmate, but they now see a fully responsible and dependable adult that they can passionately share their lives with. If you haven't played Our Beginnings, I highly recommend it if you'd like to study the Childhood Friends to Lovers trope, because not only does it go through the awkward transition of friends to lovers, but it also captures the social learning curves and the world views that children have as they get older. So if you want to write a Childhood Friends to Lovers story, here's how you do it. First, determine how the characters know each other as children. How did they meet? Did their families bring them together? Did they meet at a school or maybe church or some sort of after-school program? Think about your own childhood friends, how you met them, and the different things you used to do together. In aesthetic philosophy, Aristotle discusses the idea of mimesis. Mimesis means imitation. This is directed to the idea that art is an imitation of reality. It's not real, but it's real enough to affect the audience. And this is also true in children. Children imitate adults and reality that they see around them. So this may be good to consider as you're writing a Childhood Friends to Lovers story, as these characters once mimicked the world together, but now they are facing reality as it really is. Characters discussing how they were wrong about adulthood or their misconceptions as they were children can be a really great foundation or emotional scene for your story. Next, you have to determine if the characters are going to grow up together or if they're going to be separated. And this is going to determine the awkwardness factor and also the emotional factor once they reunite as adults. The longer they've been apart, the more awkward it's going to be. This isn't because they dislike each other, but it's just because so much has happened, they don't know where to start. They're in this strange sort of limbo where they're not exactly friends and they're not exactly strangers. And there may also be some misconceptions or misunderstandings from the past that have carried on into the present. Think about these things while you're doing the reunion scene. And also have fun when you decide how they reunite. Coincidences in storytelling are endless, but I would recommend that the reunion has something to do with the plot. For example, in Love and Deep Space, the characters are reunited after Zayne becomes the primary care physician and heart specialist, where the main character goes to have her heart checked. The main character has a very special experimental heart, and her childhood friend Zayne just happens to be the one in charge of that kind of research. The coincidence is not only logical, which is important for storytelling, but it also adds to the plot and it deepens the relationship between the characters. Vow to My Liege does something very similar, where the main character goes to look for a witch doctor to cure a curse, and it just so happens to be that the doctor that she is looking for is her old childhood friend who has taken on a different name. And once you have them reunited, now you have to have them create new memories on top of their old memories. It's not enough that your characters have good memories together as children. They also need to create new memories as adults that create more romantic tension between them. Now, you can fuse new memories with the old memories, such as having them go visit one of their favorite childhood spots or doing something together that was on their childhood bucket list. But either way, you want to create memories where the characters fall in love with each other in the present. So now the characters are in love with each other not because of the past, but because they have created so many memories together that now their entire life timeline is full of that person. And finally, a childhood friends to lovers story will need moments where the characters see each other not as children, but as newly developed adults, multiple turning points that make them fall in love with the person in front of them, not the person in the past. And the best thing about childhood friends to lovers is the confession scene. And the reason the confession scene is so great is because who doesn't want to hear, "I have loved you all my life"? Zayne's confession in Love in Deep Space has completely ruined me for life.
I need you. I have never denied that. It's just... it's not the kind of need you think it is.
And Yi Guang's almost confession of "what if we weren't just friends" is a great example of showing tension.
有我你怕什么呀？如果不只是朋友呢？
And even Cove's confession in Our Beginnings hit me harder than I thought it would, with just the one sentence, "You define my life." This kind of confession of "I have loved you all my life and I have always loved you" is what makes childhood friends to lovers such a swoon-worthy romantic story. So when you create this kind of story, make sure you are creating an actual romantic story where these two characters are falling in love with each other. The audience knows that they have been childhood friends, but we have still signed up to watch two people fall in love. So be sure not to skip that part of the story. And again, make sure not to found the romance completely on nostalgia. Nostalgia is the layered added bonus to this relationship. It is the icing on the cake that gives it an extra sweet flavor. But make sure to build the cake properly first. How would you rank childhood friends to lovers trope on your favorite tropes? And what childhood friends to lovers stories do you recommend? Comment below. If you have made it to the end of the video, you are a top tier tiger, and thank you for listening all the way through. Give a like and subscribe if you liked this deep dive into childhood friends to lovers tropes, and let me know what trope you want to see next. Until then, keep being beautiful beasts. I will see you tigers later, and peace.